Welcome to Lifting the Lid, episode 4, and Wheeling the Hype, which is very exciting with our lovely audience again. When I knew Riser would be sponsoring this episode and this launch party, and we would be talking about opportunities, I really felt like Carlys and Michelle would be the perfect two women to talk to. They've got such different experiences of seeking out opportunities. Whilst they are both creators, Carlys is a corporate girly and she kind of documents her life as a corporate girly. And Michelle is, as well as a content creator, she is a model. So yes, I would love to start by asking you both to introduce yourselves. Carlys, do you want to start? Tell us about what you do.
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Yeah. Super excited to be here. Hi, everyone. And hi, all the listeners. I am Carlys, content creator across TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, and also a corporate girly. So I document my journey as a first-generation consultant at one of the strategy consulting companies. Recently, I actually just announced that I left my job, starting a career transition as well, and essentially have just been juggling content creation alongside my corporate job, which has been a really exciting journey and one that has been incredibly rewarding. Yeah.
And you are the queen of prioritization, managing multiple things. Like, it's actually crazy stuff.
Somehow it all aligns and it all fits into place. Yeah.
And Michelle, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys, and hi to listeners as well. This is actually my first podcast, and I'm a bit shy. My name is Michelle, or Melon Mishi on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I am a digital creator, like storyteller, and then I also do modeling, mostly commercial. And I also recently started a social Black women's netball team in London that I run and organise. You are both multifaceted women, and I love that about both of you. Can you tell me about your journey into content creation a little bit? Carlys, do you want to start?
Yeah, of course. So I actually started first making videos during COVID, and I started with YouTube. And at the time, I was just wrapping my master's at London Business School. It was COVID, I had nothing else to do, literally locked at home, and thought, a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me on other platforms asking me about how I broke into business school, especially coming from a non-target school as well, and thought about just making videos telling people how I actually broke into London Business School and what it was like to apply and what I wrote in my essays and how I approached my interviews. And from there, it kind of just started growing, and people thought my advice was really helpful, and I really saw the value in making these videos. So I started making more videos around my master's and completion of that, and following from that, what it was like to apply to consulting. And I also had a bit of a background working as a HR recruiter at an investment bank while I was in uni. It was a very random side job. But from that, I learned a lot about how to write a CV, how to go for video interviews, how to present yourself well in case studies. And I thought, now that I have this information, might as well democratize it and tell other people how to break into these traditionally gate-kept industries, especially because I came from a background myself where my parents didn't have the resources to help me. I didn't have older siblings to look up to, and I really had to fend for myself to find the information out there, which there isn't a lot of. So I thought, since I am now on the other side, might as well tell people all the things that I learned, and that's kind of where it started.
Even though I've never tried to get into any of these types of roles, I love your videos where you do the problem solving interview questions.
Those are one of my favorite videos to film, doing cracking the case interviews or videos talking about some logical reasoning questions you might get and how to answer them. It's definitely more nerve-wracking doing the actual interview than it is to film a silly little TikTok. Things like that, people go into these interviews not even knowing the type of questions that they might get. Mm-hmm. So at least having, even listening to my video for 5-10 seconds, at least you get a little bit more context and can come a bit more prepared.
Yeah. She makes it so digestible.
Yeah.
As someone that's not in the industry at all. This is really interesting.
It's okay, so how many people out there in the UK? I'm that's not where I would have gone with that. I don't even know where I'd have gone with that. Amazing, thank you. And Michelle, what about you? Tell us about your journey.
I kind of accidentally got into content. I started at university a while ago, kind of just sporadically. So when I was quite young, I used to have permed hair, like chemically straightened hair. And I just really wanted to like liberate myself. So I decided to cut all of my hair off. In the natural hair community, it's called the big chop. So I chopped all of my hair off and then started wearing my hair curly. And all of my aunts would message me and be like, what products are you using in your hair? Like, it always looks so good. And it just got to the point where I got really tired of all of my aunties asking me what products I was using, etc. So I decided just to make a YouTube video and just give some tips and stuff. And it started to do really well, to the point where like my university housemates were actually watching my YouTube video with me on the screen. And so yeah, I kind of went from there and then started making Instagram as well. That started to do really well as well. I actually have a background in healthcare. So I used to work in hospital, and then I worked during COVID, and it was really stressful. So kind of made the decision to pivot like fully into content, because I was still helping people, but almost in a wider scale.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just taken me to where I am now. So
you started on YouTube. Did you start on YouTube, or did you start?
Yeah, technically started on YouTube, and then kind of abandoned it for like a year or so.
It's hard.
Yeah, slowly trying to get back to it, and then TikTok really became my baby.
We've already spoken a little bit about Riser and how a big part of their like messaging is that you kind of need to shoot your shot and just put yourself out there. And I've actually already had a couple of people come up to me saying, "I'm going to shoot my shot," like, and ask me something, which I've absolutely loved, because that's all in the spirit of things. But I'd love to ask you, is there a time in your mind that stands out as a moment where you shoot your shot?
Couple things. I mean, obviously being a model, you kind of have to put yourself out there. And even when it comes to like finding agencies, I feel like that's definitely times when I've kind of had to push myself outside of my comfort zone and present myself in a certain way. But I would say probably when I decided to go full time with content, to be fair, because going from such a vocational, clear path, clear career route, to then having to go into an industry where, like, you know, things are not always consistent, and you have to make your own schedule, and your next career step is not necessarily super clear. I feel like that was almost me having to like shoot my own shot in a way. But yeah, no, I feel like it's really paid off, and you guys really helped me, so you should have.
One of the examples I can think of at the moment is actually my most recent career switch. So I've been a consultant for 3 years now, and really wanted to exit the industry, given that consulting for me, as amazing as it is, it always was an entry-level job in my eyes. And I made a vow to myself to try to enter big tech this year, and it was kind of a faraway goal that I wrote down for myself. When I was actually on holiday, I came across a post that my friend put on her Instagram about a job at the company she worked at, which to me was one of the target companies I really wanted to apply for. I didn't think much of it, because, you know, when you tell yourself you're going to try to switch jobs but you don't really do anything about it, that's kind of the mentality I was at the time. And I was on holiday as well, so I didn't really want to get all worksy. So I left it, and then thought to come back to it a few weeks later. And when I went back to my friend, the job had actually already been filed. And I was like, oh shoot, I missed my opportunity, I missed my shot. But then I thought, you know, when it comes to careers and when it comes to shooting your shot, it's really not over until it's actually over. So I asked her, yeah, the posting seems to be filed, but have you guys found the person you want to hire? She's like, no, there's a few interviews going on, a few rounds have already started, a few candidates in the pool, but we haven't actually given the final offer yet. And I was like, can you please just get my CV to HR? I just need one call, and if they don't want to, you know, take me further, that's fine. They might like me, they might want to like pipeline me into a few interviews and potentially want to see me further, but just get my CV to HR. And I was able to have like a 5-10 minute call with HR, and from there they decided to put me through the rounds of interviews, even though they already had a pool that had gone through several rounds already. And I had to really get fast-tracked to catch up with the other candidates, and it's led me down a job offer, which I actually started very recently. But it's a really good example of how sometimes you just really have to shoot your shot, and things might come in your way and like, okay, like this has been filed, or your CV didn't get approved, or you didn't hear back. Sometimes you just need to go out of your way to make sure that things go right. And yeah, it's really just never over until it's over.
I love that. I didn't know that story. That's so like, yeah, that's like inspiring. But both are, like, I feel like I really resonated with your example. Like, I think that's true of lots of our creators where they've kind of had to sort of make that decision about, actually, I want to do this full time. And like, what does that mean for me? Like financially, like, how does that look? And like, often it's when you start committing so much time to it that it really does start to snowball. What would you say are the best tips for creators starting out about how to source opportunities?
I think, again, just be super proactive, super bold. I'm always DMing brands that I think would be really aligned. I tell Lucy about all the brands that I want to work with. I'm like, Lucy, I love this brand. Talk to them, please. And I think it really is just not being ashamed or not feeling embarrassed to reach out to brands and seeking opportunities that might even feel like, oh, it's out of my league, or it's out of my control, or I'm too premature in my career to do this. Sometimes you just really have to shoot your shot. And also, like, something that's really helped me in my career as a content creator is just really going back to my mission and why I make videos, and that speaks for itself, and brands really see that as well. I'm not making videos just for the sake of making videos, and there's a bit more substance to it. And when they want to position a product, it's easy for them to see how it's slot into my content because there's a voice and there's a story. So instead of being focused on the numbers or the views aren't viewing or the engagement isn't engaging, just think about why you make videos, and if I'm even helping one extra person with one video, then that's fine.
Love that. And I've actually on a different panel heard Michelle say a very similar thing about like really going back to like the value that you're adding to your followers and your why.
Honestly, most times we are our own biggest cock block. It's true. But yeah, just like realizing that you can literally do anything you set your mind to, and your growth zone is, I was just saying to Claudia as well, Claudia, it's like your growth zone is outside of your comfort zone. So like sometimes just pushing yourself that extra mile, you'll be so surprised what you can achieve. And I myself am like, I really struggle with like imposter syndrome, even though like this is the field I'm in, but I guess like even just journaling and like looking back at your journey and seeing how far you've come and realizing like all the things that you've achieved from the back of your own kind of just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's really important. So I think remembering the journey you've taken reminds you of like how far you can also go as well.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. Like I feel like we are our own worst enemies half the time. Yeah. And you don't want that to be the thing to stop you from shooting your shot. You obviously both work as creators and then you have other jobs on the side. What is your top tip for kind of juggling that? Like even for creators starting out, or what is your top tip for managing your time?
Bruh. Still figuring it out, very much so. I would say for me, so I also have ADHD. So I think just keeping on top of my schedule, like using my calendar, writing stuff down is so important. It sounds really basic, but for me, it's something that doesn't necessarily come naturally. Finding things that help you to systemize your schedule and your week is super important.
Yeah.
But I'm still very much figuring it out. It's a day-to-day thing.
Same here. I think one thing that really helps me is just being very hyper efficient in my day-to-day life. And people always think like, oh my God, how do you relax? But the thing is, being hyper efficient gives me more space to then relax so that I don't have to do everything that I do for longer. So for example, if I am in the tube, I was just saying, I literally came from work to this event, and on the tube, I was just editing a video. Because if I wasn't doing that, I would just probably be sitting there doing nothing better with my time. And little pockets of times where you just find yourself, you got a bit of free time on your hands. That's an opportunity to help yourself out in the future, rather than having to sit down, okay, I'm gonna edit this video and start from scratch. There's at least like something that's already been done there for you. And also something that helps me a lot, again, in the topic of helping myself out for the future, is when I am in the office, and that might not be a day where I'm filming a vlog, but I might film a few clips of like B-roll, because on the day that I do want to film a vlog, I might not want to spend hours taking clips, and then I can refer back to a few videos that I already filmed earlier in the month or in the week. So things like that, just being hyper efficient and really looking out for the future you.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I've actually never heard that specific piece of advice around the B-rolls. That's really good idea.
Yeah.
We can get on that on the TVH vlog. We've spoken a little bit about AI bots. I'd love to get a creator's opinion on this. Obviously, as managers, we've spoken about AI bots and using them as managers. Obviously, Grace Beverly has announced Retrograde, which is an AI manager in your pocket. What are your guys' thoughts? What's your take?
From my perspective, I think AI, not only as my job as a creator, but also as my job as a corporate worker and a consultant previously, AI was a catalyst. AI is an enabler for me to do my job better, more efficiently, and quicker, but it can't do my job. And I think there's so much value in embracing AI because it can reduce writing an email for 15 minutes to 2 minutes because it knows what you want to say, it cleans it up for you, it's make sure that you don't use too many exclamation marks or no mistakes here and there. But at the end of the day, you need a human to review, you need a human to send. And it's the same on my corporate job as well. So I think that there's so much value in embracing AI as a creator as well. Sometimes I do think, I'm sending out the same email to 10 brands when something automated can make it so much easier. But I was telling you this as well. There are times where I just call you and I just need a human opinion on things, or I just need a real conversation that requires a lot of nuance. And I feel like the bigger the deal and the bigger the brand and the bigger the collaboration, the more human element there needs to be. So I can totally see AI being incredibly helpful for the smaller things, but as the bigger things get and the bigger the conversations get, it's so important to have the human negotiation skills in there.
See, I mean, that echoes a lot of what we were saying.
Yeah.
And what about you, Michelle?
Yeah, I completely agree with Clouds. I feel like AI is the future, and so we do have to embrace it. I mean, the only comparison I can think of is at school back in my day when there were computers, but we'd go to the library and we'd open a book and but now you have the internet, so you can just search up things.
Yes.
The same concept with AI, if you can make your life easier, then why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I definitely think that we should embrace it, but it is definitely more of a tool. I think the main thing for me, what I think about when it comes to having an AI manager is the well-being of the content creator, the influencer. I think mental health and well-being is something that is such a hot topic in this industry because literally your job is how people receive you online, and naturally that's going to have an effect on your mind. So I don't know how an AI bot is going to take that into consideration when it comes to, changing deadlines or just making some scopes and flexibility in the work that we do. I think as well also for me as a model, I don't know the ins and outs of how you guys negotiate for me, but I know that things like usage and stuff is quite something that we have to really look into when we're working with brands. So if you have an area of speciality, if you're a doctor, if you're an esthetician, if you're a corporate person and you have a level of expertise, then how does that also get considered? There's just lots and lots of different nuances but AI is an ever-growing space, so who knows where we'll be next year.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to grow very quickly. Would love to open up to the audience for any questions they have for Clouds and Michelle. Hello.
What advice would you give to people who are looking to start branching out into create garage content because of the backlash of fear of putting yourself out there?
I think you almost have to pretend that no one's watching almost. I had this moment last year where I had all this traction on TikTok and I was so scared of putting it on Instagram because that's where my friends would see it, that's where my high school, middle school friends would see it, cousins, etc. And I was thinking, just the thought of them seeing it cringes me out. But I just honestly chose to forget about it, almost pretend that no one's watching this content. And people like to always make fun of people who are trying, but no one starts off with 100,000 followers, right? There always has to be a journey to that place. And once you make it, then people are like, oh yeah, then they celebrate you. But I think in the beginning, it really is having that trust in yourself and just really pretending that no one else is watching and just keep on pumping out content, consistently. Yeah.
Just to quickly add on to that as well, I would say definitely, as long as you're adding value online, I think you're doing amazing already. And also, people will laugh until you're successful. So it's fine. Like let them laugh.
Exactly.
Any other questions from the crowd?
Hi, Minnie. Basically, you have the most beautiful, like, polished, amazing content. So for anyone who's like starting out or someone who maybe wants to like level up their content, is there like a piece of kit or like an app that you would say like that's something that helps?
I could go on for days. I definitely would say lighting is the most important thing. Like you could have a really bad camera, but as long as you've got some really nice LEDs, a little dish, even just natural lighting sometimes it works. And then audio, like I think people forget that how important audio is. It's so jarring to like listen to someone when there's like loads of white noise and stuff in the background. So almost like view your content, like think about the things that you like about other people's content and then take those things on board as well. Watch your content as though you're a viewer.
Sometimes Michelle will like say to me like something that's really obvious to her. She'll be like, well, yeah, because obviously like that needs to be there because like the sound like comes in there, and then obviously and I'll be like, yeah,
we have different jobs for a reason, I think.
Yeah. I would say CapCut, if anyone doesn't have it already, is the best creator app for every single video editing thing you need. I used to use Final Cut Pro for my YouTube videos. I now use CapCut just because it's so much easier. Yeah. It's just so easy. Yeah, so intuitive. Yeah.
I think we've got some amazing tips there. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Can I have a clap for Michelle and Carlys? And that was episode 4 of Lifting the Lid. You can follow us on TVH Talent across all socials. You can watch the full episode on YouTube or listen wherever you get your podcast.